Lately, everywhere I see, there are three constant terms buzzing around always: data science, machine learning, and AI. However, there is one word among these three which is associated to direct career opportunities, and which is your data science. But not everybody are really sure how to make a career in this field.
And that's why Metaverse Entangled is thrilled to introduce its second guest, Ms. Deya Chatterjee. Deya is a talented data scientist at Intellithink Bangalore and an esteemed alumna of IISER Mohali. What makes her journey inspiring is that she transitioned to data science from a background in physics despite not initially being drawn to this domain. Her story beautifully illustrates the mantra, it's never too late to chase your dreams. So without further ado, let's dive into this conversation. Okay. So hello Didi, welcome to the podcast. Finally we made it.
Yeah.
So we'll start without wasting time. So first, tell us about yourself briefly, and tell us something which we don't find in your LinkedIn profile.
Okay. So yeah, it's a tough question to start with. Now, one thing about me is I'm a very curious person, and I love diving deep into topics that intrigue me. And initially, that curiosity led me to build a career in research when I joined IISER, thinking I'd spend my life in labs and academia. But life obviously had other plans, and I found myself drawn to data science instead. Turns out the same investigative mindset that's great for research is also not bad if you are trying to pursue a career in data science, because you are just basically digging through numbers to uncover valuable insights. So while plan A didn't work out, I'm making the most of plan B, and honestly, it has been working out pretty well so far. So that's a little about me.
So you are like you made your mind very clear at the first go itself, like you have to land into an IISER, or like was IISER a backup option, or was it your first choice?
Oh, no. This was like it was my dream, okay, to join
Amazing.
IISER. I wanted to do basic science. That was very clear.
Hmm.
Like when I was 11th and 12th, I wanted to do basic science.
So next, Didi, please tell us briefly about your BSMS journey in IISER Mohali, and if possible, tell us about your internships which you did every year also.
Okay. Uh, so as I told you, I was absolutely thrilled to join IISER as an 18-year-old. And it honestly felt like a dream come true for me. And to this day, those 5 years remain the best years of my life. Like the friends I made there and the connections I made there. It's really amazing. So from the start, I was sure about one thing, that I wanted to major in physics, because I wanted to do research in high energy physics and maybe work at CERN someday. Big dreams. So naturally, all my summer internships were in that domain. In my first year, I got a reading project that focused on mathematical functions crucial for physics, like Fourier transforms, Laplace transforms, etc.
In
So
IISER
you can say
Mohali only.
yeah, in IISER Mohali
Okay.
with a prof there.
Okay.
And so in second year, that is when I got the chance to work on high energy physics domain for the first time. And I got to work on CPU violation in Beauty mesons and how it connects to the matter antimatter asymmetry problem. And it was very interesting for me at that time, because in my school once during audiovisual science project kind of thing, I saw this thing, like they were showing a documentary where they were telling about this matter antimatter asymmetry thing, and it was very interesting for me at that point also. And then later when I got to work on an internship related to that, so it was a pretty amazing moment. And then the third year came. It was the COVID year, but I ended up doing two internships that year. One was on the physics of particle colliders under a professor in IISc, and it was online. The second one was under a prof in IISER Mohali only, and it was a little heavy on computation. And the title was Machine Learning in High Energy Physics. So that was my first exposure to ML. And honestly, it was overwhelming. I remember running ML training algorithms on these massive data sets, and my prof once casually asked me if I had a graphic. I was like, wait, what? And so I worked on like detecting. I don't clearly remember what exactly that project was, but I remember that it got me started with the concepts of ML. So yeah, in my fourth year again, I went back to high energy physics. I worked on the kinematics of heavy ion collisions, which eventually developed into my thesis project in fifth year. So yeah, my entire IISER journey was deeply rooted in research. And even though I took a different career path later, those experiences kind of shaped how I think and approach problems today.
So, but as you mentioned earlier, initially you were very much, you landed at IISER because you are very much passionate towards basic sciences. But so coming back,
Yeah.
like seeing where you are now, like what do you think made that transition? Like what is the key factor that made you jump into corporate? Like being very passionate in physics at the initial stages, then now like it has entirely there is a phase shift. So what do you think influenced and what made you take the decision?
So one funny anecdote I'd like to share here. In my first year, I was like, okay, I'm here, I'll do physics. I had like plan A, I'll do research in physics, then do my PhD in high energy, then go for postdoc, and then be in academia forever. So once I was having this discussion with my friend, and he said that like they are thinking of setting up a placement cell in IISER Mohali. And I was like, I'm dead against this because this is going to attract the wrong kind of crowd. The people will come here because now they can get jobs after completing BSMS. And thinking about that, like, I was so naive because I myself, so what happened is in third year, I properly like got to do all the physics, like advanced physics courses, right? So that is when, like by the end of third year, you can say my doubts started creeping in.
Okay.
I still loved all the parts where physics could explain all the intriguing phenomena, but those never-ending hairy equations, they were starting to get to me. So what a lot of people don't realize initially is physics is a lot of maths, like a lot. And I had to ask myself, do I really want to do this level of math all the time? I enjoy math, and even today, when I get into the nitty-gritty details of an ML algorithm and understand its parameters, hyperparameters, loss function, whatever, I enjoy that part. But it's kind of knowing about your threshold, how much math is too much math for you. And for me, physics had obviously crossed that line. So in my fourth year, while I stayed dedicated to my coursework, I started exploring other alternative career paths. But I didn't see many lucrative options beyond joining DRDO, BARC, or ISRO. And
Okay.
I wasn't too inclined towards those either. So by my fifth year, I decided to give research one last serious shot. I poured myself into my thesis project, and I enjoyed doing that. And
Right.
then I thought, like, why not apply for PhD positions? I applied to one PhD position in one US university, but my main focus was European universities for the same reason that your previous guest mentioned. Like, he was also talking about this, right? There are many benefits. So, while like applying for PhD positions, I had to write those letters of motivation, right? Why I want to pursue that particular project, especially in European universities. It's very project oriented. You already know what project you're going to work on during your PhD years. So I started to read all those prospective PhD projects, and then I had to properly articulate why I wanted to pursue that particular research, right?
Right.
And then write it in the emails to the profs. But every time I wanted to answer that why, it was not very clear to me itself. I mean, how can I explain it properly to others? So, kind of had an epiphany after writing like a lot of emails that maybe I don't want this enough, you know. And for something as intense as a PhD, you need unwavering passion for your subject, right? So it was a very tough call, but today I'm glad I made that choice.
Nice. Like, thank you for being very honest here. I'm sure many people are in your same situation, and it will be some
Yeah.
eye-opening advice for them. So, and like, I also know that you took a data science minor. So, to what extent did your data science minor help you in doing what you're doing today? Like,
Right. So yeah, my data science minor helped me a lot. It
hmm,
introduced me to all the fundamental concepts of data science and machine learning. So that gave me a solid foundation to build a career in this field. Without it, I think stepping into data science would have been much more intimidating, the transition, right? So also, I want to share a funny story here,
hmm,
how I ended up taking the minor. So it was introduced pretty abruptly during the middle of our fourth year, okay?
hmm,
And we had to complete specific course credits to be eligible for that minor. Initially, I wasn't sure if I wanted to take on more data science coursework, and I was seriously considering taking quantum field theory
hmm,
because it would be useful for my thesis also.
right.
Now, I don't know, like at the last moment, I thought, let me go with machine learning and complete the minor requirements.
Here there is a
So some
kind
of
of
my friends,
Aditi, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
uh,
Hmm.
okay, no, you can ask.
No, here there is a kind of me being from IISER Barampur, like there is a there is a lot of mixed reviews on taking minors and all. Some people advise you, some people tell you that it is a big hassle. Like you can learn all the theory by like you can learn all the stuff by yourself. You can sit and self study and learn all that. So there is no point in taking minors. And I also have heard the exact opposite opinion also. Like no, it is really useful. You should go for it. It adds a hell lot of value to your profile and on. So what are your comments on that?
Yeah, so for my case, it has been really beneficial. So,
Hmm,
like at that time, just like you said, my some of my friends said like, it's a foolish decision on your part. I mean, why take a course unrelated to your thesis? That too, just like I said, right, middle of fourth year, you're just about to start your thesis. So, but in hindsight, it was one of the best choices I made, right? Because I completely switched careers. So see, while doing your thesis you already get a lot of time to learn what you need to learn for your thesis.
hmm,
So I anyway learned whatever portion I needed to learn for my thesis, but also I got to learn this, and I also got the minor, and it did help me even while applying for jobs and all. I don't know how much the employer or the recruiter is paying attention that you have a minor along with actually they do pay attention, because during job interviews also they have asked me, so you took a minor with physics. I said yeah. So it just like gives you some kind of edge, I think, if you're taking data science as minor. And I will give you another example. So if you're doing something like, yeah, for us we had this minor in astrophysics or something. You are doing a major in physics and then you're doing another minor in astrophysics, so like you get to learn a lot more in detail, like
hmm,
you are ahead of your peers who just have a major in physics, right? So that
right.
that properly shows that you have always been very passionate about astrophysics. So stuff like that, it's good, it looks good on your resume, and also you get to learn everything. Yeah. So,
Nice to meet.
and lastly, I wanted to add this one thing. It's always a good idea to not put all your eggs in one basket, right? So, for my case, it was helpful. Yeah.
Maybe. And also, like, I want to know your thoughts on this. There is this very cliched opinion saying that if you want to have a career in data science, like and the statement is supported by a logical backup also, that you should take up a math major, you should not go for a physics major. Obviously, math major has a better edge over a physics major. What do you think about that?
No, you said obviously. So, I mean, I think you agree to this, right? I'm just asking. I
Like,
know this podcast, you
uh,
are the person who asked the question, but I also wanted to know what you think.
basically, what I think is it does make sense to me when I hear the logical backups which I spoke about. So yes, the
Okay, okay.
courses and the computation. So yes, I do feel it makes sense. So, but you know better than me in this, so I want to know your opinion
No,
also.
it's not like that. You know, it also depends from person to person. For example, I'll tell you my answer to this. Now, for my case, I never faced this dilemma of choosing my major, because at that time, you get to choose in IISERs, you get to choose your major in third year, right? So at that time, I had no plans of becoming a data scientist because I had not taken those advanced course in physics yet, which actually started giving me doubts about whether I wanted to have like a full-fledged career in physics. So I was set on pursuing research in high energy physics. So picking physics as a major was a no-brainer for me. Now the real confusion happened towards the end of my third year when I started exploring alternative career paths. But even today, if like I think I know that I have become a data scientist in future, given that information, I'd still, if I have to choose between maths and physics, I would still pick physics, because even though I no longer am in research, it's a subject I deeply love and enjoy, right? And to answer your question, at the risk of offending some mathematicians, I have to say the kind of math that is needed for data science, we physics folks know it just as well as they do. Physics trains you to be comfortable with mathematical modeling, problem solving, and abstract thinking, which are all essential for ML and data science, right? And even Elon Musk thinks so. In my opinion, whether you take physics or mathematics doesn't really matter. What matters is keeping your mathematical foundations strong, and most importantly, taking an advanced statistics course. If you're serious about a career in DS or ML, then that is going to give you some real edge.
And I usually ask a lot of people, and I want to know their thoughts on the 2024 Nobel Prize Physics to AI. Like, what do you think about that?
Okay, so I was pleasantly surprised when the Nobel Prize in Physics was announced. And well, this definitely answers your earlier question about whether a background in physics is sufficient for venturing into ML and AI, right? Anyway, jokes apart, what's truly fascinating is that John Hopfield, besides having a background in physics, also conducted extensive research in neuroscience. And that crossover eventually led to his groundbreaking work on associative neural networks. And Geoffrey Hinton too initially studied psychology and then went on to do his PhD in AI, right? So to me, this is the true beauty of machine learning, you can say. It's deeply interdisciplinary. It brings together concepts from computer science, physics, linear algebra, statistics, neuroscience, and so much more to create this incredibly powerful models, right? And the fact that a physics Nobel went to AI-related research just highlights how interconnected these fields really are. Yeah.
Like, really nice. And talking about your thesis titled Direct Photon Production in Quark Gluon Plasma, like, I want to know more about it. Can you just comment on your thesis?
Yeah. So
And I think it is
my
more of
thesis,
data analysis. It was more of data analysis.
I mean, yeah, it did involve a lot of data analysis and statistical techniques, but it was deeply rooted in physics only. My research focus actually was like high energy physics, as I had mentioned earlier. So what I was doing is was analyzing data from particle colliders like LHC at CERN or the relativistic heavy ion collider at BNL, right? So I had this massive data sets, and I was trying to study a novel state of matter called the quark-gluon plasma. Now, quark-gluon plasma is believed to have existed just moments after the Big Bang, and also it is thought to exist at the core of neutron stars. Okay, and one of the key signatures of QGP is the production of direct photons, which are electromagnetic probes of this extreme state of matter. My work involved analyzing the low transverse momentum spectra of direct photons to derive the effective temperature by fitting the slope and investigating correlations between flow effects and statistical parameters from the fit. And I was using Monte Carlo event generators like Pythia and Hygiene to simulate heavy ion collision data so that I could distinguish between direct and decay photon spectra. So, yeah, that sums it up kind of.
And how did your thesis actually influence you to take a career in data science, if it did? And you already said that like at the end of your third, fourth year, you decided that you are not going to do main scale physics. And in that case, like if that is the case, why didn't you do your thesis in main scale machine learning projects, or like why was it still more of physics oriented?
So, yeah, as I said, like by my third year, I had decided, like not decided, you can say, I had thought that maybe physics is not for me. And I had explored some alternative career paths, but it was not decided. By fifth year, I thought like I'd give a serious shot to this research thing only. That's why later on, again, I started applying for PhD positions, right? So, um, at that time I was like solely focused on doing some very good research on high energy physics. So I got whatever I like got from my supervisor. I like, took it. I was very happy to work under sir. Like I wanted to work under him from the first year only, and when he took me, so I was very happy with that. And so I did want to work on ML related projects for my thesis. But in research, what happens is your work is often dictated by the focus of the lab, the available projects, and what your supervisor assigns to you. However, my thesis did involve a lot of data analysis, statistical modeling, and visualization techniques, skills that later proved invaluable in my transition to ML and data science. And during my thesis, I worked extensively on Monte Carlo simulations, fitting statistical models, and handling large scale experimental data. These experiences taught me how to extract meaningful insights from complex data sets, a skill that directly translates to the field of data science. So, even though my thesis wasn't explicitly in ML, the analytical mindset and technical skills I developed during that time played a crucial role in shaping my career path.
Nice, nice, really. Nice, really nice. So getting off to one of the most important questions, what computation skills do you think are very much demanded today for developing a career for having a career in data science?
Okay. So the field of data science, as we speak, is evolving, right? It's a rapidly evolving field, but you have to start somewhere, right? So first, I think it's essential to pick a programming language and be very proficient at it. And Python is the most popular choice because it's powerful, widely used, and it's pretty easy to learn. And then you have to have a strong understanding of data and understand how to extract, load, and store data using relational databases like SQL. Then comes the ML modeling part. You should have a thorough understanding of core ML algorithms like regression, classification, decision trees, ensemble learning, then clustering. Then beyond that, learning the basics of cloud computing is also pretty essential, and having hands-on experience with at least one major cloud platform like AWS, Azure, or Google Cloud Platform, I think is a big plus. And one major challenge I faced while transitioning from academia to the industry was realizing that knowing how to code and train ML models wasn't enough. I was oblivious to the best practices in software engineering. As a data scientist, you need to write production level code, which means
Right.
understanding version control using Git, and then CI/CD, and then software design principles.
I see.
So, coming to current trends, of course, Gen AI is the hottest skill right now, but it's vast and sometimes very overwhelming. So it's important to start with the basics before diving in to all this more advanced stuff. And another emerging area to keep an eye on is agentic AI, which is gaining a lot of traction these days. And companies would be looking to hire people who are well acquainted with these skills, because both of this Gen AI and agentic AI, they are helping to automate a lot of workflows. So yeah,
Right.
these two are pretty important skills to have.
Thank you, Vivi. Thank you so much. Now we have a new question. Like, let's try to end the debate here. What would you root for, ChatGPT or Deepseek?
So I don't know how much of a debate that really is, because there's no denying that the developers of Deepseek have done something extraordinary with the way they optimize the training using such judicious resource allocation. But personally, I prefer using ChatGPT over Deepseek. That's just my preference, and if someone else might feel differently, that's also totally valid. But you have to realize that different LLMs are trained for different purposes, and each might excel in certain areas over others. For instance, I use ChatGPT for code documentation and data visualization, and also like all other kinds of writing related stuff. You have to refine essay or something, that I use ChatGPT for that. But then I use Claude for debugging and optimization of my code. So it all comes down to your specific use case rather than
Right.
a one size fits all answer. Yeah.
And what would be your go-to path advice for an undergrad in first or second year who wishes to become a data scientist or who wants to venture into machine learning?
So I kind of answered this already in the last to last question, I think. You just learn all the basic skills, must haves, for data
But the
science,
like
right?
main thing here is like we being in a research institute from IISER, the course curriculum is designed in such a way that we are only trained for a career in academia. And how do you make the transition exactly? Like at this point, at the split time, like you don't want to get into academia and you want to get into something different. So that transition phase.
So take all your computation courses seriously.
Hmm.
Just like make sure that you are very good with programming, and like if you are doing a minor, I don't know, is a minor available in all IISERs right now? I think it would be, like, especially a data science minor. If it is, I would recommend, if you're already thinking that you might, and nobody knows in the first and second year what they're ending up, like what they're going to end up doing, right? So just like, even if you have a hunch that data science is something I would like to pursue, then just make sure that you have all the essential skills just to apply for a data science job, like even for a data analyst role, right? You need to know Python very well, you need to know SQL very well, you have to master one data visualization tool. Okay, it could be like, you could do it using Python also, but sometimes they prefer using Tableau or Power BI, but that you can do even after like graduating, because the coursework itself is so hectic. It's like very hard to accommodate other extra coursework or like
Right.
new kind of skill set. Yeah. So Python and SQL is must. So I'd say. And of course, the machine learning algorithms, right? All the basic ones like regression, classification, supervised, unsupervised.
Okay, we're moving on next. Like, please tell us about the possible job market after when you graduate from a physics major. Like, what all options one has.
So if you're majoring in physics, honestly, the world is your oyster. But the key is to decide which direction you want to explore. Physics graduates have a lot of transferable skills. So there are multiple career paths for them as well. Like they could go very easily in finance, data science, software development, consulting. However, transitioning into these fields often requires developing a targeted skill set. Okay. So if you realize that academia isn't for you, the next step is to identify an area that excites you and start learning the skills relevant to that domain. And many of my batchmates have also taken completely different paths. Some are pursuing MBAs from the top IIMs, while others are preparing for UPSC or government jobs. The main thing to remember is that any transition takes time, and sometimes you have to start learning new skills from scratch. So just like have that humility, have that curiosity. And for smoother transitions, early preparation during your BSMS helps. Once you have developed some foundational skills, just reach out to your seniors, leverage your alumni network, and see who are pursuing similar career path that you want to pursue. then ask for advice on interview prep, resume building, and even referrals. And then keeping your LinkedIn profile up to date and then actively checking job descriptions can also help gauge the industry expectations and fill any skill gaps that you might have.
Right.
And if you're specifically interested in data science, one of the best ways to break it is like working on real life projects, I would say, and building a portfolio of projects that would highlight all the skills that you have developed. And yeah.
Doing all this, finally, you're saying that will be. If there is one thing you could go back and fix in your life, what would it be and why?
So if there's one thing I could go back and change, it would be exploring more career paths during my college years. And one bad thing that I would say about myself, I had a very fixed mindset when I was in college that I'm in a research institute, so research is the only way to go forward. So I spent a lot of time trying to convince myself that you have to pursue research because that's the best possible career option for you. And I wasted a lot of time convincing myself to pursue something I had already lost interest in instead of actively looking at alternatives. So, looking back, I could have used that time to explore different fields, take relevant electives, or even do online courses in emerging areas. But
Right.
at the same time, I believe there's no point dwelling on what ifs. Mistakes are just lessons in disguise. And of course, trying to go
Exactly.
back and change things would break causality, which as a former physics student, I can't allow. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. And people fall into this peer trap of thinking of, they want to do a PhD despite not wanting to do one. Or in general, like, what would be your advice on tackling peer pressure?
So I'd like to start by quoting something we have all heard at some point in our lives, that comparison is the thief of joy, right? So it's incredibly easy to fall into the trap of pursuing a PhD just because everyone around you is doing one, right? Especially from a institute like ours. You see your peers and seniors traveling to international conferences,
Right.
visiting dreamy European destinations, and you start thinking, I could have all of this too if I
It
just
is like this is the
pursue
conventional
PhD.
path here is that when you're in an IISER or in a research institute, that you are bound to go for a PhD, and people, convince
Yeah,
themselves that, okay, that is what I am noticing. People, even if they don't want to, they convince themselves that they want to do a PhD. So, and how do you tackle that? I
yeah,
feel that is a result of this peer influence only. I may be wrong.
yeah. That is mostly it. But then also there's another thing called the sunk cost fallacy.
Hmm.
I don't know if you have heard about it. It's basically about that if you have spent a considerable time, energy, resource, whatever on something, then you just tend to continue pursuing it even when you know that maybe the outcome is not going to be what you want it to be. So after spending 5 years working hard towards a research career, it's tempting to think that I have already come this far, right? I might as well push through. But forcing yourself into something you don't truly enjoy won't lead to the best outcomes. Instead, if you take the time to explore, reflect, and find what truly excites you, you'll naturally excel at it. If research is your passion, a PhD is absolutely worth it. But if it's not, the sooner you pivot towards something that genuinely fulfills you, the better it would be for you in the future.
Okay. And I think we are nearing to the end. So, like, one final one-line advice you would give for the undergrads or your juniors, irrespective of what they want to achieve.
Irrespective. So stay curious. I mean, with AI in the picture, our world is evolving in a way that we hadn't imagined even like 2, 3 years back. So a lot of traditional career paths might just be eliminated. So just like stay curious and keep on reading about all the new developments, science developments that are happening, and just do what your heart says. At the risk of sounding cliche, I would say that just follow your heart.
No, it is something which is real. So it does not matter how cliche it sounds. That is the truth. Okay, I
Yeah.
think we are done. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this, Didi. I hope you enjoyed the questions and I had a really good
Yeah,
time.
great.
Thank you, Didi. Thank you so much.
Yeah, same here. Okay,
Have a
all
good
the
day.
best for your
Thank you
podcast.
so much, Didi. Thank you, Didi.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. We hope the video was informative. If you have any questions or suggestions, please comment down below or mail us to metaverseentangled@gmail.com, or you can also message us through our Instagram handle metaverseentangled. Thank you. Hoping to see you in the next video.